Hey everybody, it's Ola aka ChalkOne from Battlefield Podcast. I'm here with Tim aka Darkness429, and this is our official review of the Battlefield 3 DLC End Game. We're going to break it up into different sections. We'll talk about Capture the Flag, Air Superiority. We'll talk about the new maps in general, as well as the new vehicles that were introduced. And starting off with CTF, Tim, right off the bat, what do you think of Capture the Flag and End Game?
I really enjoy Capture the Flag just because it's I don't know, it's an iconic game mode. Almost every first-person shooter that's out there has a variation of Capture the Flag. And the last time we saw Capture the Flag for Battlefield was in 1942. So it's nice to see it coming back into the Battlefield franchise. For Battlefield 3, I think it definitely adds a new twist. It's something to add to the Battlefield. But I'm kind of in this love-hate relationship with it right now. If you're in a server by yourself, it's very hard to try to work as a team.
Yes.
Just because you don't have that communication factor. So trying to talk to your teammates and trying to organize a flag capture is very frustrating. I found myself in a couple matches where we were 2 flag captures up on the team, so the opposing team took a more defensive stance on the flag, and there was really no good way to communicate with the team as to where mines were, where they were sitting and camping the flag. So that was very frustrating for me. But overall, I really enjoyed it. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fun diversion from the regular kind of conquest and rush stuff that we're used to. And it's a little bit more intuitive than I thought, actually. Once people get used to what the icons on the map mean and the fact that, you can't capture the enemy's flag unless your own flag's in your base. So there's still a bit of confusion. I think that's going to level out as people get more familiar with it. But you're right. It does sort of depend on having good teamwork, more so than I expected. Yes, you can go out there all by yourself and capture the flag, but when you bring it back and your flag's gone and nobody knows what to do now, it can be a little frustrating. So it definitely takes smart players to be successful in it. But again, if you get a couple of people on a Skype call or in TeamSpeak or whatever, and you're working together as a team, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, most definitely.
So something that doesn't require as much teamwork, at least in my opinion, is the Air Superiority mode. There are objectives to capture. Those are the blimps that you have to control. They're just like capturing flags. You fly around in the vicinity, and it slowly burns, and you capture them, and there's a ticket count. But other than that, I've seen a lot of team deathmatch, basically, in airplanes. What do you think about that game mode?
I'm just gonna come out and say it's a clusterfuck. There's no good way to really, describe as to how this is done. And we've never seen, 12-on-12 jet matches before. It's weird. It seems to be the hideaway for the elite players, or people who think they're elite players. I found myself in a couple matches where I was automatically tagged as a noob for doing something incorrectly. So it was definitely very hit and miss. I love flying. I really enjoy that aspect of Battlefield. I think that was what really kept me going in Battlefield 2 was the jet and helicopter flying. But for air superiority, I like the idea. I think it sounded a lot better on paper. But for the actual applying this to the Battlefield, I just don't really think it works out that well. I was also very disappointed that we didn't get any new jets. With this new mode that was primarily focused on air power, I was really hoping to see maybe some new jet fighters, something that we haven't seen before. But maybe we'll see those in Battlefield 4.
Yeah, it does make it a little bit easier, at least for people who want to get points on their jets, because at least the enemy can't leave their planes once you've disabled it, or at any point, really. They can't bail out. So you're pretty much guaranteed a kill once you disable the enemy, unless they have a fire extinguisher, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make it a little bit easier if you want to get those points, because that can be really frustrating in regular gameplay. I don't really see anybody playing the objective very much, unless it's by coincidence. That happens to me. All of a sudden, I realize that I'm near a blimp, and I stick around to capture it, but haven't really gone to that on purpose. The maps in Air Superiority, I think, are really irrelevant. There's not really much to them. You're flying quite high above the ground for the most part. So it almost doesn't really matter what map you're flying on, in my opinion. But that leads us into the discussion of the new maps. There's 4 of them. What do you think? You got any favorites? Any negatives of these new maps?
I know we talked about it yesterday on the podcast, but they're really linear. And I think that was designed for the capture the flag game mode. Uh, Railroad, Kaiser. I've heard, I think, 4 different ways to say that name.
Yeah.
But the Railroad map, I like that one a lot, just because of the different elevation changes in the map, and I also like I like Pipeline. Pipeline's really cool.
It's interesting because I've never been a fan of the snow maps, and I'm not a big fan of this one now either, unless I'm on Conquest and I'm defending the one particular flag that's right in the middle of the map on the pipeline station itself. But they are somewhat more linear, but a lot of it depends on the game mode again. Capture the Flag itself is a very linear game mode, right? You just go from one end to the other, basically. I think these maps are okay in Rush because, again, it's a linear sort of progression, even though I've noticed on some maps the M comps are really close together. Like they're almost within grenade throwing distance of each other.
Operation Riverside's a good example. When you get to the second tier, I believe, when it moves on to the bridge and the warehouse, they're right next to each other. I was really surprised with how close they are to each other. It makes defending a little bit easier, but at the same time, it makes it a little more chaotic because everyone's rushing on the same point. There's no buffer area for you to kind of fill in.
Right.
So that was a little rough.
We've heard a lot about people complaining about the recycling of certain items in the maps, some maps being very similar to Operation Firestorm and whatnot. But I think overall they're unique enough. Certainly the Operation Riverside and Railroad ones visually look similar to Armored Kill, I guess, but fairly unique. And Nebudan Flats is actually quite fun in TDM. It's all around a warehouse, and it can be a little bit hectic, but that's what TDM gets into. So overall, I think the maps are actually more well done than people give them credit for.
Yeah, no, it was definitely this is a good addition to the series. Hopefully, they will keep us busy. During our wait time for Battlefield 4.
I think they will. And of course, we would be remiss to not mention the new vehicles. We have 2 new, I guess you'd call them
Jeep modifications?
Yeah, exactly. Anti-air modifications. The Vodnik AA and the Humvee Azrat, both of which feature guided missiles, and I guess you'd call them dumb missiles or just rockets. I don't know how much of an impact they make. Probably the biggest thing that people talk about for Endgame is the new dirt bike, which, your thoughts on that? What do you think?
It's fun. It's very interesting. It's one of the fastest vehicles I think you could find on the battlefield. It definitely is a game changer when it comes to capture the flag, and that's what I think its primary purpose was in its inception was for capture the flag. I like that it's a two-man vehicle. It's really cool to be on the back and to kill another dirt bike as it's passing by, or just ground units as you're flying through a capture point. They're very easy vehicles to be turned into trolling vehicles. A lot of C4 dirt bikes that I've seen, which is very frustrating for someone who likes to be in armor because in a split second you have a dirt bike on top of you and it explodes. So at least for like a dirt bike or a C4 buggy, you could see it coming. But these are a lot faster, so it's a little bit harder to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that they're quite fun to ride. Like you mentioned, the fact that the second person has more of a almost 360-degree radius of fire, it certainly makes it more fun than the quad, for example, that was introduced in Armored Kill. I never really got into that. It is a fun vehicle, and especially in CTF, it makes a big difference because you can flank around and you have that speed, and jumps are cool. C4 on them, yeah, that's fun. I'd love to see this actually in more maps. I think it's a good vehicle. Hopefully we'll see that again in Battlefield 4 in some form or another. So with that said, for those people that aren't premium members that are currently making up their mind whether or not they should purchase Endgame, what do you think, yay or nay?
I give it a yay. It's not my favorite expansion, but it's definitely a good one, to say the least. So most definitely, if you are on the fence for this one, I definitely say go and get it. It's the last one. Splurge a little bit.
Exactly. I would agree. I think Endgame will keep us busy until Battlefield 4 comes out, or at least for several months' time. You're going to see more Endgame footage on our channel as well, youtube.com/Battlefield Podcast. Of course, you know that because you're watching the video right here. If you enjoyed our little review, please subscribe and like the video, and let us know your comments on Endgame in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.